Hi, I'm Leslie Schultz.
And I'm Rick Gallucci.
We're members of the group White Allies Against Structural Racism, or WASR. Welcome, and thank you for attending this forum.
And the WASR group, for those of you, I need this. Okay. The WASR group is White Allies Against Structural Racism. We were formed initially by being involved with the talking circles, and we decided after being in those talking circles to maybe move on to a little more action than just talk. So we're here this evening with the forum, and the forum itself is a little different. As you may know, the format is different than some other forums we all have probably been to. This is not a debate. These four folks are here to answer the question where's the question? Do we have it? The question is, we are attempting to eradicate racism in Tompkins County. And we're going to have a conversation about that. And the four candidates will lead us and begin that conversation. And we'll have some questions from the audience possibly. And that's basically the structure of the evening.
The county court judge is a 10-year position and sits on several types of courts: family, surrogate, and county, and thus presides over legal proceedings ranging from adoptions and the distribution of estates to felony cases and child custody cases. More than 60% of the caseload is in family court, which includes juvenile court for young offenders. The four candidates running in the Democratic primary for the county court judge position are Pamela Bleiwas. Pam has been practicing law for more than 22 years. She has been appearing before the Tompkins County Court Judges since 1995 in family court, as well as with criminal proceedings on both felony and misdemeanor levels.
Joseph Cassidy. Joe Cassidy is the supervising attorney for the Department of Social Services and has worked as an attorney for the department since 2007. Before that, Joe was a solo practitioner attorney in Ithaca. His primary practice was criminal defense through the county's assigned counsel program.
Kelly Dam. Kelly is an attorney in Tompkins and surrounding counties. She's in her 14th year of practice. Her primary areas of practice are criminal defense, family court, matrimonial matters, and surrogates court. She's been a sole practitioner since April 1st, 2001.
Seth Peacock. After completing his law degree, Seth Peacock was offered a position at Cornell Law School as Director of Alumni. Mr. Peacock has been practicing law for 12 years and currently has a general solo practice. Seth's practice is focused on litigation involving criminal, civil, and family law cases. At this point, we'd like to turn the evening over to our facilitator, Ann Rhodes, with the microphone.
We'd like to define structural racism for you because what we're interested in tonight is identifying strategies to eliminate structural or institutional racism in Tompkins County. And Jerry is going to go over a definition of structural racism for you.
And first, I would like to say I'm so pleased to see everybody here. This is a very nice turnout, and I'm glad that you're all interested in this forum. In the late 1960s, Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture, used the term institutional racism, any kind of system of inequality based on race. It can occur in institutions such as government bodies, private businesses, universities, etc. Another definition: the collective failure of an organization to provide an appropriate and professional service because of their color, culture, or ethnic origin. 1960s, 50 years ago. In 2003, Larry Edelman was the executive producer of the film that we've been showing here, the community viewings, Race, the Power of an Illusion. And his definition of structural or institutional racism is the underlying social, economic, and political conditions that disproportionately channel advantages and opportunities to white people. Perhaps we can shift the conversation from discussing diversity and respecting cultural differences to building a more just and equitable society. That was 10 years ago. I'm sure there were some things said in the interim between the 60s and 2003. 2013, we are resolved, as you are, to combat violence involving or directed at young people, to prevent future tragedies, and to deal with underlying attitudes, mistaken beliefs, and stereotypes that serve as the basis for these two common incidents, the Trayvon Martin death. That was Eric Holder, U.S. Attorney General. 50 years is a long time. We're still facing institutional or structural racism. The white allies against structural racism want to see a change, and we hope that we can be part of doing something. It's getting to be too long to wait. I did just want to mention that voting is very important, especially for the candidates. The general election is on November 5th. Anybody who is in this room and a resident of Tompkins County can register to vote and vote in the general election. The primary is on September 10th. We hope that most of you will vote in the primary, but please take voting seriously, and there are election registration forms on the desk outside if for any reason you haven't registered before this, because this will make a big difference, we think. And I have a whole sheet here that tells us that in Tompkins County, certain offices have been won by 1 and 2 votes. If you want to see a list of the elections for the last couple of years, your vote may or may have counted very seriously. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beth Howard, and I was asked to say just a couple of words about the U2O Understand to Overcome movement in Ithaca, and the film that Jerry mentioned, which is called Race the Power of an Illusion. My guess is that many, many of you in this room have seen the film and know all about this, but for those of you who don't, this is a very powerful and educational PBS film. It's not new. I'm not sure exactly when it was produced, but it's been around for a few years. A marvelous group of 8 women in Ithaca decided to bring this film to Ithaca, and their vision was to have the entire community see this film together, so to speak, over a period of weeks, and it's turned out to be months. So the film has been screened again and again in various community venues, churches, the city of Ithaca, I think did it, the county, I think municipalities have been screening it, community centers have been screening it, places of business have been screening it. It was seen by a huge section of the community at the State Theater back in April or so, and it's still going on. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you do. And it's continuing to be sponsored at various places. If you want to find out where you can see it, go to the website, u2o.org. That stands for Understand to Overcome. And you can find out there about currently scheduled, and I happen to know of at least one that isn't yet on that website that will be coming up. So I highly recommend it. I just wanted to say a little bit about my experience of the film. I am a white person, admittedly a person of privilege from the get-go, and a naive person, let me put it that way. And this film was very powerful for me. It was educational in ways that I never imagined. It is a history lesson that every person in America should have. And many of you in this room, I'm sure, are on top of this in spades, but I wasn't. I'm a person who has cared about race relations for years, but I have been sheltered and protected and uneducated. And the film really opened my eyes to the status beyond the in-your-face kind of racism that many people of my ilk may say, I don't do that, people I know don't do that, or even that doesn't exist anymore. But there is another kind of racism, well beyond the one-to-one kind of thing, that is underlying so much of what we're talking about here tonight. And this film will help you understand that. For me, it was just the opening of a door. Obviously, there's much more to learn. Anyway, I highly recommend that you see the film and visit the website for lots more resources, educational resources, etc. U2O, that's the letter U, the digit 2, the letter O.org. Go to the website and you can find out much more about it.
We have a few facts about structural racism in Tompkins County. Some of you had found it on your seats. There are more copies available if you didn't pick one up. I just want to say that viewing the film is step one, in the sense that if you get your awareness raised and you don't take any action, structural racism continues happily along its way. So that's what we're about tonight, is to identify actions and strategies. And Karen and Caleb are going to share a little bit about the facts.
People who didn't get one of these, there are some on the table outside. We just want to really quickly point out a few things. All indicators that describe health and prosperity show that serious racial inequalities exist today in Tompkins County, in case people think it doesn't happen here.
So we're not going to mention all of these that are on this handout, but we're just going to go over a few of them. One of them, right near the top, about health. 7 out of 10 white people lived in 2010 until the age of 75, and less than 5 out of 10 Black, Asian, or Hispanic people, Latino people, lived to age 75.
Okay, as far as education, a Black male student was twice as likely to be classified as a special ed student than a white male student, and 7 times more likely than an Asian male student. Also, 94% of Hispanic male students were classified as special ed. This is from a report for the 2011-2012 school year.
And I'll mention this one. Family income in the city of Ithaca in 2004. A white family had 10% chance of living in poverty. A Black family had 21% chance of living in poverty. An Asian family had 25% chance of living in poverty.
Okay, as far as the jail population, 18 and over, 71% were white, although 82% of the county population is white. 24% were Black, while only 4% of the county population is Black. Also, in secure detention, this is from the Department of Social Services in 2012, 50% of the children sent to secure detention were white, and 83% of the population is white. 50% were Black or biracial, and the total Black youth population is 5%. And 2% were identified other than white or Black.
And lastly, youth from Tompkins County admitted to foster care. 74% were white, while white youth population is 83%. And shockingly, 24% were Black, while the total Black youth population is 5%.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yep. The structure of this event, as you know, is a little bit different from the usual candidate forum. We're going to ask you to have a conversation with each other and speak not as candidates with positions and sound bites, but as citizens who are concerned about structural racism in Tompkins County. Not in competition with each other, but working together, just like so many of us listening are working to eliminate structural racism in our community. We'd like to arrive at some really good ideas or consensus or actions or ways of thinking about this problem or ways to approach this problem that would be helpful. And Lynn's going to scribe the ideas as they come out of our conversation, because we would really like to follow up with this after. This is not a one-trick pony. We hope to follow up after tonight. Our White Allies Against Structural Racism group continues every month, and we'll be trying to figure out how to build on the ideas that come out of your conversation here. There may be a time when I ask somebody else to step up and pull up a chair and join us. I have a few follow-up questions that can help move our conversation along, and I'm inviting the audience to, if you have aspects of structural racism that you think are not being addressed in our conversation, you can write it on an index card that'll be being passed around, and it'll come down to me and I can drop that into the conversation. Or if you have a strategy or a thought about a solution that hasn't been mentioned, you can write that down and that will be brought to me as well.